Hello. Hello, Marcy. Hi, Robert. Good to see you. So far, it's just the three of us. Hopefully, more will be able to join at some point. And yeah, that's normally how it works. Many people book, but then not everyone can make it due to various reasons. That's okay. This is being recorded, and well, everyone will be able to watch the recording at their own convenience. It's really crazy times and very hectic because of the holidays around the corner. Before we begin, well, behind my back, clearly this is Jaffa, the port of Jaffa. And hi, Mary, good to see you. This is me in Jaffa. Well, I was there in early, in mid-November this year. This is photo just from the internet. I'm not even sure when it was taken. Definitely, it's not very fresh one. So today we are doing the second episode of Old Jaffa, and Jaffa is a lovely place to live stream with. It's the great combination of really old architecture, thousands of years of history, yet there is connectivity there, unlike the old city of Jerusalem, which is still very, I would say, problematic. That's how I would put it. So one of my very first live streams would be from Jaffa, and we have done so many great tours over the course of these years. And I was happy to live stream from Jaffa also when I visited in November together with Tanya. By the way, that video is available to watch on my YouTube channel. Tanya, my colleague from Moscow. And I was able to film Jaffa for you because those live streams were only at nighttime because of my studies in Jerusalem. So this is my way to show you how beautiful Jaffa is in the sun. And regardless of political situation, hi Felipa, good to have you. Regardless of the situation, regardless of well, the background where you're from, regardless of what I or you believe in, Jaffa is a treasure trove. Jaffa is a time capsule. Jaffa is the place of immense heritage of many, many peoples and many religions. And we should embrace that. We should keep it. We should preserve it. We should admire that. So that's why I carry on with tours about Israel, about the Holy Land, no matter what. Tel Aviv Yafo, you see, is just by the sea. And on a larger scale, exactly the Levant region, right? This is the old name of the region, including the Holy Land, including the modern state of Israel. Basically, the entire um, territory just along the shore, the entire coastline would be called the Levant. And that was exactly the way from Africa, both to Asia and to Europe. So everyone throughout thousands of years, starting from Egyptians, which is 17th century BCE, 18th century BCE, right, uh, wanted to control these lands. Hence, there is immense history that we have in Jaffa, and not only. Why Jaffa is particularly important because it had the port, the really ancient port, and the port that had been functioning well almost up until now. Well, yeah, it's in a way it's still functioning, but not as a passenger port, but just for some fishermen and just some tourists. But there is still a port in Tel Aviv. It's just in a bit different location. It's not as important as it used to be. Now there is a port in Ashdod, which is over here. There is also a port in Haifa. Well, Haifa is not on this map because this is the map of the Haifa is somewhere here. As you can see, there is um, kind of a cave. Well, that's it. So there's a Bay of Haifa over there. So it's not the map where you would find Haifa because this is the map of the old trade route via Maris that was elaborated by Egyptians, and the idea was to trade all around the Levant and reaching Syria, modern day Syria, well, modern day Iraq, so Mesopotamia. And yeah, and Jaffa was one of those ports. The Egyptians, however, well, didn't own it from the very beginning. The land, as you know, in the Old Testament, that land was called Canaan. So the Canaanite people, pagan tribes, used to live here. But obviously, there is a lot of connections with Egypt. We will be talking about as the tour goes. Hence, also the interesting terrain because you can even see it from here. So what I'm showing you is kind of the map of Jaffa, and you can clearly see it is located on an elevation. And you can also see that there used to be walls because it used to be a fortified city up until the well, the last the second half of the 19th century, that city used to have a wall, kind of. There are still remains, remnants of those walls, and we will see them. So it's not so easy to find them, but they are there. And for a long time, actually, up until I would say, yeah, mid 19th century, it was basically Jaffa, right? So this is Jaffa, and kind of wilderness around it and nobody wanted. It's the same story as with Jerusalem. Nobody wanted to live outside the city walls because it wasn't safe. So Jaffa got extremely congested, extremely overcrowded, extremely anti-sanitary, and that was one of the reasons why eventually the population would start moving outside of the city walls. But there was also a bigger problem of the port because the port was important for not only was it important for transportation of well, I mean for logistics of cargo and whatnot, but also the pilgrimage, Christian pilgrimage, Jewish settlements, all that contributed contributed to I would say the horrible overcrowdedness of Old Jaffa. So here in this photo, we can still see more walls, but most of them are gone. This is where we stopped last time. Well, okay, not exactly. So we stopped a little bit after that. What you have just seen is a Mahmoudiyya mosque. We will talk about the mosque again. Why there are so many mosques in Jaffa? That's because, well, up until 1970, and the land of Israel was under control of the Ottoman Empire, and even well, and Jaffa was one of the centers, kind of, right, with the predominantly Arab population, but not only, and you will see that there's a lot more to it. And there was always Jewish population, there was always Christian population, and we're going to see it. Now we're going through, and this is where we were last time. We've almost finished just in the same spot. We are going through just an archway, right? There's nothing special about that archway, but it's very special because this is what's left of the so-called Jerusalem gate. Because people would be coming to Jaffa not to see Jaffa. Jaffa was ugly. Jaffa was dirty. And now we admire Jaffa, but back then nobody admired Jaffa. Everybody admired Jerusalem. And entering through these gates, people would eventually, in the worst case, in 4 days, uh, depending on which period of time, which year they made their pilgrimage. Um, in better times, after the establishing of the railroad, Jaffa Jerusalem Railroad, it was just a matter of a couple of hours. People would find themselves in Jerusalem by the Jaffa Gate. Jaffa gates look different now. There is no tower here, but we talked about it. But yeah, those are still the same Jaffa gates. A little bit changed in 1899. Yeah, but again, looking at this, like how can this be the gate to the glorious city of Jerusalem? Like, yeah, but it is. Look, and this was the one of the dungeons that protected the entrance. So there was kind of a double entrance because this was the most important entrance, and it's a fortress. So the weakest point, the weakest place for every fortress is the entrance. So they needed a double entrance, kind of a double gate, just to make sure. So we are now entering through Jerusalem Gate, right? It's unbelievable that they used to be the most important gate that the pilgrims from Europe, Christians, Jews, they all spent 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 4 weeks at sea Many of them would die even before they could set their foot in the port of Jaffa. Everybody wanted to go through these gates. And everywhere you go in Jaffa, there is history, and you can plan your walk in Jaffa differently as well. And with this tours, I luckily have the opportunity to show you different itineraries, so to speak. We are going to take one of them now, but then we will have to come back to the same spot to go another way. So this is how I decided to do it. And at the moment, we're going to see the minarets and the building of the Mahmudiyya Mosque, the main most, the main but not the only mosque in Jaffa, because Jaffa is still, I would say, predominantly has Arab population, but not necessarily Muslim, but also Christian population, because there is a great Christian quarter in Jaffa. And well, the Mahmudiyya Mosque is just the central one. And before we turn left, actually go back a little bit, I'll just well show you the Sabil, which is the fountain. Well, throughout the Ottoman Empire, there was a tradition of establishing fountains where everyone, for a little zakah, for a little donation, could just have a sip of water, just have some fresh water. You can imagine how hot it is. And it was mid-November. I think it was like the 14th of November. It was the day I was to leave. I just don't remember exactly which day it was. I guess it was the 14th of November. And I only had like an hour and a half before going to the airport. So it was I was with my with my bag, with everything, with my suitcase. It was very hot, and I nearly got a sunstroke, to be honest. So that is the Sabil, and even nowadays, I guess Israel just keep up with this tradition because there are lots of spots with this drinking water fountain still. Nobody calls them Sabil anymore, but that's the word. So, um, and now again, so we could go along the shoreline, basically left and straight ahead, but this is what also most tourists do because they see something very interesting over there. But I would rather go left. That's my bag. So I had to carry all this bag all the way up, all the way down, because you must have noticed, and many of you know already, that Jaffa is actually there is like one big hill, right, which is a Tel Jaffa, kind of Tel Aviv. It's kind of also connected. So it's a mound comprised of multiple layers of history. And by the way, this is the street where the money changers used to be, which is important for every port city, right? Money changing. So that's just one of those streets. And again, it just happens to be exactly on one of these. Well, you just entered the Jaffa Gate, sorry, Jerusalem Gate, right? And you're on your way to Jerusalem. And yeah, well, like an airport, you need to exchange the money. So there you go. And um, um, we are going to see maybe a little bit different area. This part of the video I filmed a year ago. Not a year ago. Let me say it was uh, February, maybe early March, before my trip. Not before my trip, before. It was March, I think, March 2023. At that time, I was still studying. No, wait. Yeah, I was still studying my courses, and we had a study tour in Jaffa. So I came very early, and I met a couple of my group mates, and we went over the places. So I filmed. You know, I would always take my gimbal, my phone with me. So we just roamed a little bit around. We weren't shown that area on the study tour, but by that time I had learned Jaffa quite well because of the multiple tours, thanks to all of you. And this, by the way, also happens to be one of the old streets and one of the gates as well. And exactly through these gates, eventually people would be on their way to Jerusalem. Um, Yeah, so well, I also speeding things up a little bit just to save time, but assuming from that point to this interesting floating thing, floating in the air, it's about 7 minutes walk, so why wasting our time? So here we are approaching the floating orange orange tree. This is an art object, a very interesting one, by the way, quite spectacular. And well, this I would say this is a very meaningful modern a contemporary art object, and it takes some time to kind of understand and like pick up the message if you please. So what the artist Ran Mooring, so it's a suspended orange, but I call it a floating orange, but yeah, it's suspended orange. So what the artist tried to get across is that, so you see this tree is growing, yet it's not really, you don't see the roots. It's not really growing from the ground. So it's an uprooted, but yet alive, uh, flourishing orange tree. And that's very important because it's connected with that idea of that, well, we are in the Jewish state. The artist is Jewish. So that's the story of that, regardless of the situation that that the Jews had been dispersed throughout the world for 2000 years, yet they did not disappear. Yet they are not extinct, no matter how bad things were, especially in the 20th century. And yes, Jews had been uprooted for 2000 years, yet they continue. And the that's one level to this metaphor. The other level to this metaphor is that it's an orange. And orange is extremely important because it's one of the symbols of Jaffa. And because this is where I would say maybe 70% of the world's supply of oranges actually came from. And many of you may even remember the brand Jaffa oranges, right? So Jaffa used to have great orange plantations. That's because there is the source of water here. The spring water is, um, well, about a meter, but even less than 1 meter underground. So which means that it's easy to grow. The land is extremely fertile for these type of plants, such as oranges and also dates. Well, but dates is needs still a bit different area though, so we stick to oranges. But in general, so this is where the great number of oranges would be coming from. Well, this is just some of the brands you may know, you may have seen. Well, but that was from definitely, I would say, early 20th century, late 19th century. Lots of vintage posters have this. Well, these posters were all started and extremely popular now. They're just vintage things, very, very, very trendy and stylish to have them. I like them too, because the pilgrimage that has eventually started in the Holy Land by the Ottomans after the Crimean War, it gave rise just to tourism industry on a larger scale. And yeah, it was just visit Palestine. Why Palestine? Please bear with me, those who know, because this story is being recorded and I share it on my YouTube channel. So anyone can just come across this. So I need to say it again. In this regard, these posters that date back to, um, it could be 19th century, it could be 20th century, it could be up until 1948, you could see these posters. It's not the country, it's the region called Palestine, because in the Ottoman times, we just got back to the very old name of the region, which was given to the region by the Romanovs after they, first of all, well, in year 70 AD, they destroyed the second temple that had been built, by the way, by a Roman clan king Herod, but that's okay. Then there was destroyed the entire Jerusalem after the Jews uh, started a revolt against the Romans. Jerusalem was destroyed, rebuilt into a pagan city, And that's why, by the way, there is very little from the times of Jesus you can actually find in Jerusalem. And in the last episode, the recording is available on my YouTube. Actually, I last time I took you to the place where you can actually walk the same pavement that Jesus for sure had walked. So that's the reason. And then the entire city was renamed Aelia Capitolina, and the region was the name of the region was erased from history. It used to be called Judea for many centuries, but then they decided to call it Syria Palestina from the word Plishtim, from the word Philistines, that pagan peoples of the 14th century, 12th century most probably, well, that came in around either 14th or 12th century BCE, and had been living in this and had been living and mostly occupying the coastal plain just at the same time as the Israelites returned from the slavery in Egypt from Egypt. So this is just the name of the region. Those Philistines have no relation to Palestine as a state, right? So the modern day understanding of Palestine, so that's why I have to say it again and again, because this is just making sure you're not misguided by propaganda. Just that. I'm just saying it, right? And so that's why it's here. So oranges, Jaffa oranges. Jaffa oranges were extremely important also after the Second World War, when the half of the population of Europe was undernourished and experienced great deficit in vitamins, especially vitamin C. So this is exactly how many children from post-war also survived. So this is the photo clearly from the Ottoman period. Just saying. So Jaffa used to be this green. Obviously, times have changed, and now you would only see just a couple of orange trees, including the suspended orange as well. But we are again walking the narrow way alleys of Jaffa, and they're really narrow. Actually, here you can see that this used to be a much like this place used to be twice as big, right? There's kind of an archway. Actually, this is another gate to Jaffa, and you see again another gate, and then another gate. Um, so the double gate. This is a very interesting part. Again, no, it's not always do we realize that we are actually passing by the well, medieval walls of Jaffa, but that's exactly the case. And again, I'm stating again that the entrances, all the gates are the weakest points in any fortification. So this is exactly the way Napoleon in 1799 managed to take over Jaffa. He found one of the gates. They managed to enter. They entered just through one gate, through just one of the gates, right? There would always be two of them. And then they saw this door open. They got in. There was a wine cellar. And also there was entrance. There was a way up. And this is how the army of Napoleon managed to take back the Ottomans. And they flooded the streets of Jaffa with blood of the Ottoman army. It took Napoleon 4 days to take Jaffa, to drown it in blood of the Ottomans. And this is the photo, right? The selfie. Yeah, the footage, right? The live stream of Napoleon, of the massacre in Jaffa. So the thing is that I will tell you in more details when we actually get to the point where it makes sense to talk about it. But after that, after the corpses just de decomposing in Jaffa, his soldiers of Napoleon's army contracted something, well, like plague, and they started, well, yeah. So he lost like half of his army. Eventually, he had to move. He had to go to Akko, and he would never take Akko. And this was his first uh, failure. and after that he had to flee back to Europe. So, but that's the episode when Napoleon tries to do away with all the dying officers and soldiers because they were just burdens. But we will talk about it. So, but that's exactly how Napoleon's army entered in 1799. He had to escape from the British from Alexandria. And you see, the roads are really, really narrow. Most uh, alleyways of Jaffa are really narrow. In fact, it was done for a number of reasons. Um, we will talk about them, but before I forget, so that story, that mind-boggling, amazing story of Napoleon and the way he managed to fool everyone and then kill everyone, it inspired Menachem Golan, who was a local. He was from Jaffa, and he grew with all those stories, hearing all those stories, and eventually he just decided to pursue his dream. He went to America, and he became a producer of one of the Hollywood studios that would mostly be making these, I would say, movies about superheroes with, about this, what do you call it? Rambo movies with Sylvester Stallone, Dolph Lundgren, Van Damme, this type of, right, this type of movies. So I don't even know what the name is, what the name is. So all these action movies, and because yeah, because that's what he was so good at. So Menachem Golan, for him, we should. Oh, Chuck Norris. Lots of movies of Chuck Norris were produced in the studio he worked with. I don't remember the name of the studio, but that's just we need to. We even for that we need to thank Napoleon's legacy in a way. So yeah, interesting, right? Interesting connections. So why so narrow? Why are the alleyways so narrow? First of all, because of the draft. Um, um, well, the sea is over there, right? And if the streets are narrow, there is a much more wind, much more draft, so it's better conditions. And also, it was very expensive to build in general, so people tried to save space. And so they would normally build, it not only applied to Jaffa, it applied to many cities, that the alleys should be just as wide so as the donkey loaded with two big sacks could just sit and go through. That was it. Yeah, so that's the case. But as I said, there is also great connection with Egypt. So there was this. There's interesting. Again, I'm just speeding things up. What we are seeing is a modern monument. Well, I mean, this is kind of modern monument in a way, just restored. But these are the gates that date back to the dynasty of Ramesses II. Uh, you see the years? BC. So 13th century BC. These are the gates. And however, the history of connections with with Egypt go even much further from here. There is a lot. There are mentions um, of Egyptians conquering ports of Joppa. This is one of the names, right? Jaffa, Joppa, in Amarna letters. And many of them are in the British Museum, by the way. So those, some of you must have seen them. Amarna letters is an amazing collection of correspondence of ancient Egyptians, so to speak. And there is a story of absolutely remarkable um, kind of a fraud, maybe. So, as I said, Egypt would just partner with the Canaanites, right? They would just trade with Canaanites, and at some point, the Canaanites just got so rich and powerful from that trade that the Egyptians just realized that they had to take over Na'am, just that. And no, most of the things that the biggest product, the product number one that would be supplied to Canaan would be wheat. from Egypt, right? From Nile, and the wheat would be delivered in big baskets. And so the baskets were delivered. We're talking 15th century BCE, around that time, and they were delivered as the gift to the people of Canaan. That is a thank you for well, an appreciation of the partnership, right? And well, the head of the Canaanite checked all the baskets. I mean, he opened the basket, he opened the lid, and it was sweet, so it was all good. And then at some point, the officers, well, the of the Egyptian army, just sprang from the basket that they had been hiding in, and this is how Jaffa was taken over by Egypt and had Canaan, they had Canaan under their control for several centuries. So Jaffa, just from the very very beginning of uh, I would say 17th century BCE. It changed hands so many times, so many times. Yeah, well, this, by the way, this house used to be on sale. I don't know about now, by the way, but so it says that this house is built on the ruins of the Mamluk and Crusader and Mamluk construction. So we are talking 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th century. That's quite interesting. So the map. Okay, so for those who missed the first episode, that would also make much more sense to see the map. So we entered somewhere here, the Jaffa Clock Tower. Then in the first episode, we just walked a little bit here to see the flea market because I didn't want to overload you with, oh my goodness, it's already almost 40 minutes that I'm talking and I haven't even made the Q&A. Okay, let's just talk about the map and then we'll have a short Q&A and then we carry on. So I just didn't, last time I didn't want to overload you with history, so I kind of, for the change of scenery, took you to the flea market, but this time it's not going to happen, sorry. But anyway, so there is something interesting in the end that I would show you. It's a kind of a very, I think that I haven't shared before. So what we saw, then we returned basically somewhere here, and this is where the Mahmoudiyya Mosque is here, right? So this is well like this, and this is the Mahmoudiyya Mosque over here. So, but then I decided to take you this area, and then this is the floating orange, and this is where we are. And now we are going, well, we're going to see a little bit more of that area, kind of going to return. And then I'm planning to take you somewhere here, depending on the time, right? You see, so the video for today is like 25 minutes, and I've only been able to show you like 9 of them, which is a shame, but there is so much to share. So don't be surprised. That's why I needed this series. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to show you all these things. Okay, so let's have a short chat session. I certainly understand that it's not so easy to comprehend all these thousands of years of history. So let's have a quick break. Please feel free to send in your questions. You know, I like to keep this halfway Q&As short, but in the end, I can always stay a little longer to elaborate on your questions. So let me know. Okay, so hold on a second. Jaffa oranges are the best. So thank you, Dorley. Chamuti is a very special kind of oranges. So why was it so good? You know, not good. It's a very convenient kind of oranges because Chamuti has very thick skin, so it's easy to deliver it across the world, like across Atlantic. On the map, it says he is at parking cars for donkeys. I think it's parking for donkeys. Yeah, so it's like, uh, yeah, parking for donkeys. Honkies. Or darking, donking, something like that, donkey barking, suspended orange tree. Yeah, I like this idea as well. But you kind of also need to really have some background information because just the tourists just passing by, yeah, probably would just be surprised to see it, but wouldn't really understand these connections. And it's not really like there's not really this kind of explanation. It kind of hits you in the face, right? You need to have a guide with you, or just be prepared, or maybe not. So maybe not. Okay, let's go back to Jaffa and. Mm, just want to make sure that it's over here. Okay, yeah, this should be fine. There are still many things. So we've seen these Egyptian gates, right? There are still many things that we haven't seen, but we will. So we will. It's a lot easier to do it actually like this in the pre-recorded format. So we are basically now going back to the same street where Napoleon entered. That's the same house that used to be on sale. Look at this amazing Mamluk architecture. Obviously destroyed and rebuilt in Ottoman times, and then again um, destroyed most probably and rebuilt in the Mandate period. We'll talk about the Mandate period and all the chaos that was here in the 1930s, 1920s as well. So we are now approaching the um, this street used to have a couple of really great antique stores. Also, Hatinka, this is the theater. It's kind of an off Broadway independent theater with lots of performances also in English. Unfortunately, I have never been there, which is a shame. Thank you so much, Dolly, for the tip. Much appreciated. But Jaffa is also very well known for its galleries, for its workshops and museums. So Jaffa now is kind of very artsy area. So not only our population here, I would say this is mostly um, Airbnbs, well, also residential area for sure, but the Airbnbs, the hotels, and museums and workshops and galleries. And this is the entrance to Ilana Gur Museum. Ilana Gur is the American Israeli artist. She has a great museum. She's known for her, first of all, for her jewelry, quite special. You can see she's wearing her own creations. And she became famous basically by, um, she just created, you see this amazing bangle. Just look at that. There are not so many photographs of herself online, most of her creations. Just one created a belt bucket for her, I think for her husband as a gift, and everyone liked it, and everyone all of a sudden just wanted to have a belt buckle like that. And this is how she started creating all these interesting belts, bracelets, pendants, and stuff like that. So, and eventually she's also a great art collector, and well, she has a great museum, and I'm not sure about now, but I think you can still go and see her museum and balcony. But as I said, there had always lived Christians and Jews. We will see lots of Christian architecture. We will see lots of Christian places in the second episode. But in the third episode, which is on the 17th of December, in a week from now, but there's also a Jewish place. Uh, in 1714, there was the first Jewish hostel in Jaffa. Why hostel here? Which means that there was still some kind of pilgrimage, some kind of traveling for Jews as well. So, yeah, technically speaking, the Ottoman Empire had been closed for most of the time and largely opened for Christian and Jewish population in mid 19th century after the Crimean War. I'm just saying it again and again. But even before that, there were ways to negotiate, there were ways to visit, but just not on this kind of a large scale. So, and as you can see, there was even found a mikveh. I have never been, by the way, in the synagogue, but it's still operating. I just found photographs online, and then it reopened in 1948. Yes, and it was run, and I think it is still run by Libyan Jews, by the way. So the photographs of what it looks inside, and there they also found this is Arona Kodesh where the Torah scrolls are kept. This is a bima, right? This is the old photograph. I'm not sure even from which period, but I guess it's after the establishment of the state of Israel because the memorial plaque is already there. And this is just the photos of the first Libyan Jews moving to the Jewish state. Um, I have been able to find just a couple of photographs. And this is also not my photos just from the internet. Sorry for the quality. This is just part of a lintel of that synagogue from 1740s. It's just there in on a display in the synagogue. And so yeah, luckily we have enough time to talk about it, and we should be good to go. But I will double check later on with you. So if you won't be able to hear anything, well, I will just replay it again. But so what we're looking at, I'm kind of moving now to the outskirts of Old Jaffa because actually what you see here are the walls. This is what's left of the fortress walls. So technically speaking, the road and the buildings over there had not existed up until second half of the 19th century. It was like wilderness and the sands, the dunes, and the sea. And well, this was not I would say in the scope of these tours, but that neighborhood, which is one of the first outside. Well, okay, not exactly one of the first, but it's okay, one of the first neighborhoods outside Old Jaffa, and this is a Christian neighborhood, just mostly Arab Christian as well. But now even more diverse, but yeah, it's a Christian, like Christian neighborhood with lots of churches. Um, Actually, I had plans to run tours there, but 7th of October happened and lots of plans went down the drain, but that's a different story. Right now, in this building is housed the Museum of Uri Geller. It's also the place where he lived himself. Again, this was like the video was filmed, we filmed it, was like 6 in the morning. So everything was closed. But on one of the times I was in Jaffa and I was doing some live streams, I just bumped into Uri Geller. And not only did we take a photo, but he even bent his spoon for me. I have a video. So
One. There it's going. It's going. There you go.
Oh wow.
I'll sign it now for you, as I promised.
Yes, you
Special
promised.
trophy.
Wow.
In English, Uri Geller, and on the back side in Hebrew.
Okay.
See, it continues bending. It's almost, look, it's almost 90 degrees now.
Oh my goodness.
That's a gift from me to you.
Thank you so much.
And good luck.
Wow.
Bye.
Bye.
so I have this spoon bent by Uri Geller. And he's like, everyone knows he lives in Jaffa. Everyone knows that he has a spectacular museum with lots of exhibits, not just his collection of all sorts of things like rare vinyls and cars and some art, but also even archaeology. Even like he's living in the old house with some architecture just underneath his own house. And yeah, it was really, I was invited just to roam around. And yeah, it was really fun. So Uri Geller is one of the, I would say Uri Geller himself is one of the exhibits, is one of the, I would say symbols of modern vibe of Old Jaffa, however. And well, for some of you, like to me, every one of my generation, Russians know Uri Geller because I grew up in the 1990s, and on the Russian television there were so many shows of American TV shows. Where on the Russian TV there was a great interest in everything America after country finally opened up to the world. So there was a great interest. And Uri Geller was always there on TV, bending this uh, spoons, just like telekinesis. I don't know how he does it. I'm not even interested. It's just fun thing to see. And yeah, so it was great. And even so, you can see what he has in his house. Even the uniform that used to belong to one of the cosmonauts, right? Astronauts. You would probably say astronaut, but I say cosmonaut because it's just how it goes. You see, even architecture, archaeology in its own house. Israel Antiquities authorities know that some of the really great archaeological finds now live with Uri Geller too. Yeah, so that's quite interesting. Lots of super expensive comic books, vinyl, CDs, signatures, lots of fun stuff. And yeah, the biggest spoon ever he ever bent is also here, and everyone can see it. Yeah, so it's in the Guinness World Records book. So yeah, that's how that's how fun it is. So, but again, we are now overlooking the Mediterranean. Yeah, I guess it's like 6:30 in the morning. Obviously, that meeting didn't happen at 6:30 in the morning. It was on the other day. So this video is a compilation of two videos filmed like in 1.5 years, I guess now, and also some other stuff, some other videos that I filmed because I think I've done about 30 live streams in Jaffa just for Hago, just for my channel, and then also other companies too. As you know, I also work B2B. So yeah, many tools in Jaffa. And but Jaffa, obviously, with such a rich history, it must have been mentioned in the Old and the New Testament, and maybe in other chronicles. And yes, we know that it was mentioned in Egyptian chronicles. So what we're looking at is, by the way, sculpture by Ilana Gur, and this is the whale, and this whale, or maybe it's better say giant fish, but in some translations of uh, it's um it's a whale, but actually it should be a big fish. So that story of Jonah, right? Uh, um, who tried to escape from God's will. Actually, it also happened in Jaffa or Joppa. The thing is that Jonah had a vision. He was given a message from God. He was supposed to head to the city of Nineveh to tell them that they had sinned, and then they would be punished for that. But he didn't want to go. Like he didn't want to be being just really breaking the bad news on the people. And he tried to escape with on a ship from Joppa port, from Jaffa port, the same very port. God was very angry with him, and you know what happened. So in the book of Jonah, we read, but Jonah rose up to flee onto Tarshish from the presence of the Lord and went down to Joppa and he found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare thereof and went down into it to go with them into Tarshish from the presence of the Lord. And well, the ship was just going to, well, it was just about to go down, and just realized, Donna just realized that he it was him, and because of him, the other people could die. Just a second. I'm just experiencing some issues with my phone, and I want to just make sure I'll be able to copy and paste something. So he decided, so he just jumped into the water, and God was merciful to him, and a giant fish or a dolphin or a goldfish, I don't know, whichever you prefer, because nobody knows, swallowed him and then spit him out. So he had to go to Nineveh again. Yeah, so that's it. That's a good question whether like we know really where Tarshish is, where Nineveh is, but Tarshish is basically maybe it's the city in Spain, maybe not. We don't know, but that's it's not really that relevant. What is relevant that's exactly the area where that story happened, and that's the Ilana Gore signature. Like a really smiling whale, you see? Even whales can smile in Jaffa. That's how beautiful this is. So this is just a little itinerary that I proposed for today. And next time we'll start again from the Mahmoudiya Mosque, and we will go along the shoreline to see. We'll be constantly seeing the sea, as well as just some another mosque. And we'll talk a lot about Christianity next time because it's not that really obvious, but uh, Jaffa is extremely important for the entire Christian world, regardless of the denominations, be it the Catholics, Protestants. It doesn't really matter because some really crucial events happened here, and we will be talking about it next time. So let's have a Q&A now. The chat is open, so let me know if you have any questions. And in the meantime, so hopefully now I will be able to share with you all the links once again. I will be finalizing the my weekly newsletter hopefully by tomorrow evening. So you will be informed about the tours I'm giving. I'm planning to give. I'm planning also to schedule a couple more. And who knows, I might be able to do some even Christmas tours depending on the political situation in Tbilisi. We'll see how it goes. From the highlights of the next weekend, definitely a very special tour in the wine factory. Goodness, what's on my head? Okay. No, what is this? So I'm taking you to the wine factory, and this tour had to be coordinated, pre-arranged with the administration of the wine factory. So this tour is going to be done at a bit earlier hour, like 4 p.m. my time, GMT plus 4. And I normally try to schedule it for at least, at least a couple hours later. But this is the time I was given, and I'll just go with whatever they offer. And yeah, I'm taking you to the cave town of Oplistique in Georgia, the cave town. Just the entire city hewn in the sandstone, not just the monastery, with at least 3,000 years of continuous population, continuous living in this type of a city up until mid-Soviet period, by the way. I carry on with tours on the Romanov heritage in Jerusalem and the Holy Land because we will be visiting places outside of Jerusalem too, I promise. And Jesus in Jerusalem for sure. We are going to see the Church of Paternoster with amazing archaeology underneath it, and many, many more for sure. That has a special charm full of treasures and surprises. Thank you, Dolly. Thank you. It's especially important to hear from a local. So thank you, Dolly. You are Sabra, so it's very important. Um, Captain Geller on US TV. Yes, yes, I'm sure you have seen him on TV. He was extremely famous in the 90s and the 80s. So yeah, Uri Geller messed with my hair. Maybe. What came first, the whale or the fish? Good one. Good one. Did Geller bend the big spoon? Not with a bulldozer. No, with just his hands. And by the way, that's the spoon. Yeah, I just bumped into him in the streets of Jaffa and said, "Hey, are you Uri Geller? I used to watch your shows. I just remembered as a kid in the 1990s, and I just couldn't have imagined that I would just come across this guy in Israel." And I couldn't even see this happen. Just living in Israel all of a sudden, like me, a girl from Siberia, living in Israel in the Middle East, 10 kilometers away from Gaza, and then just also bumping into Uri Geller. Like, come on. Yeah, but that's like life. So that's the fun. I guess it's probably the mirror reflection because I can't read a thing. uh, or maybe like this. Anyway, so I remotely know Uri Geller from someone who went to high school with him. It was a small continent. Yeah, yeah. That's everyone knows where Uri Geller is, where he goes, what time he jogs, and everything. Yeah, have hostels all over. Even Europe no goes back to say. Ah, I don't think so that it goes back to 1740s. I hardly doubt that for some reason. Okay, so we are done for tonight. I'll see you on the 14th of December on Saturday. Uh, Hebra word? Hostel Hebra? Hebra? What is Hebra? A Hebrew word? No, it's not a Hebrew word. Um, so thank you so much everyone for joining, and I will see you on Saturday, December 14th for at least three virtuals on Sunday, three virtuals, one on Tuesday. So the next Jaffa episode is next Tuesday exactly, a little bit earlier than today. And also a couple more tours I'm planning to schedule for the next week, for weekdays, not for weekends. Like four tours per weekend is a bit too much. I sometimes have to do that, but I try not to. So I'll just rather spread. And I would appreciate your support. You know, you can always send me a PayPal donation or just buy me a coffee. That would be great. I really appreciate that. I'm planning to travel in early January also for not for leisure, unfortunately, but I'm also a lucky person because I can just combine it and arrange this workation, studycation, whatever. So, thank you so much for being just part of it, and it's always nice to share all these moments with you wherever I am. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll try to stay safe. I'll try. We'll see how I cope. And thank you for everything. I will see you on Saturday. Bye bye.